Hey gang, so there's two things we're going to learn how to do today. One, you start with the graph of a circle, and you need to identify the equation of the circle and the features of that circle, or the center and the radius. The other situation, you start with the equation of the circle, and you need to identify the features, or the center of the circle and the radius, and draw the graph of the circle. So, situation number one, we start with the graph, and we want to find the equation and the center and the radius of the circle. So you all know how to read a coordinate grid. Here, the center of the circle is marked with point A. Point A is at 2, -1, and the distance from the center of the circle to the edge, or the radius, is equal to 2. So the radius is 2. Now, to write the equation of the circle, we write that x minus 2 quantity squared is plus y minus -1 squared is equal to 2 squared, or the radius squared. Now we can simplify this equation because we have a minus a -1. Subtracting a -1 is really the same as adding 1. So our equation is the quantity x minus 2 squared plus the quantity y plus 1 squared is equal to 2 squared. Let's look at another example. Here we see that the center of our circle is at 0, 4, and the radius, or the distance from the center to the edge, is equal to 3. To write the equation of the circle, we do x minus the x-coordinate of the center, which is 0 squared, plus y minus the y-coordinate of the center, which is 4 quantity squared, is equal to the radius squared. Notice that we can simplify this equation because of the minus 0. So we have x squared plus y minus 4 quantity squared is equal to 3 squared. Alright, now it's your turn. So, first, what I want you to find are the center and the radius. Go ahead and pause the video and try to find the center and the radius. Hopefully you found that the center of the circle is at -2, -1, and the radius of the circle is 1. Now, I want you to go ahead and plug in these values to our general equation and find the equation of this circle. Go ahead and pause the video and take your time doing this. Hopefully you got something like this. X minus -2 squared plus y minus -1 squared equals 1 squared. We can simplify this further. Notice that subtracting a -2 is the same as adding 2. And subtracting a -1 is the same as adding 1. Now we're going to move on to the second type of problem we're going to encounter. In this situation, we start with an equation and we want to find the center and radius of the circle and then draw the graph of the circle. So here is our equation of the circle. To find the center of this circle, we must find both the x-coordinate and the y-coordinate. To find the x-coordinate, we look here. We see that there's a -3 being added onto the x. We take the additive inverse of the -3, which is a +3, and that is the x-coordinate of the center. To find the y-coordinate of the center, we look at what's happening next to the y. Here, there's a -2. If we take the additive inverse of that, we see that the y-coordinate of our center is 2. To find the radius, we look over here. In this case, we have a 9. You may notice that in our examples before, all these numbers had a square next to it. So in order to find the radius, we must first take the square root of this number, if there's no square in this box right here. Now, the square root of 9 is equal to 3. So, our radius is equal to 3. To graph this equation, first we graph the center, which is at 3, 2. Here's our center right here. Now every point on the circle is going to be 3 away from that center point. So a couple points are here, 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 and here. Notice that each of these points is 3 away from the center of this circle. At this point, I'm not really picky about how exact your circle looks. Go ahead and just draw a circle to the best of your ability. Let's try another example. Here, to find the x-coordinate, we look right here. The opposite of positive 2 is a negative 2. So that's the x-coordinate of our center. To find the y-coordinate, we look here. We take the opposite of a positive 1, which is a negative 1, and that is the y-coordinate of our center. To find the radius of our circle, we look at this number right here. Since there's no square up here, we must take the square root. The square root of 4 is equal to 2, so 2 is going to be our radius. Now the first thing we need to do is graph our center. We go to negative 2, negative 1, and our center is right there. Now, every point on the circle is going to be 2 units away. So points like this, and this, and this, and this are all going to be on our circle. Next, we just connect all these points, and our circle is going to look something like that. This one looks a little bit different. Notice that there's nothing being subtracted from the x. Remember that if you subtract 0 from x, it's the same thing as x. The other thing to notice is over here. Notice that we actually have 2 squared here. That means that we already know the radius. We don't need to take the square root. What I want you to do now is go ahead and pause the video and find the center and the radius. Hopefully you found that the center is 0, negative 4. Notice that since this is a positive 4, we must have a negative 4 as the y-coordinate of our center. We know that the radius must be 2. Go ahead and graph the center of your circle on the coordinate grid, and then graph the circle itself. Here, in blue, I have graphed the point 0, negative 4 as the center of my circle. I know that the radius is 2, so all the points that are 2 units away from the center are colored in red. Thanks for watching the video. Go ahead back to the website and answer the questions that are there.